Hey, Rich Jason, welcome back to Primal The Awakening. This is another set for monsters. Go back, check out video 1 where we go over the rules and overview of the game. Video 2, we check out the tokens and components for most of the content. Then we jump into a bunch of videos for the hunters, and then we start jumping into monsters, and each monster is separated by element. If you want to see how the monsters work, I do a brief overview again in video with the fire monsters. You can check that link in the description as well. But we are going to hop into the crystal monsters today. So to start off, we have Feliaxir, who is our wolf of sorts. He's definitely scary. He's also got a bunch of tails. So how does he have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 tails? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, 8 tails. Not quite a 9 tails. Yeah, like the crystals on him. He looks really cool. The 4 glowing eyes. No extra special mechanics on him. But he does have a weakness to fire, metal, and venom. Fire, maybe because they melt crystals, maybe. Metal, obviously metal can shatter crystals like a pickaxe. Venom, interesting. Not exactly sure the reason for that. Maybe because he's mostly a actual like animal, not like a rock or an element, so maybe just he can be poisoned. And then we have our dragon style, which is more like a Godzilla-y dragon versus a winged dragon. We have Morkaas. Morkaas. Sorry, emphasis on the S's instead of the A's. But he has fire as well, metal, and then he has ice. So I think they're kind of like you can freeze him. But yeah, no other special mechanics on his board. Let's take a look at Feliaxir first. Move these guys out of the way. So there is our wolf friend. Yeah, the crystals look a little bit more pronounced on here than they do on his artwork. I mean, they definitely look great on there as well. But again, obviously they're all shiny and everything, and here they're not. So again, this would be one of the ones I'd love to see a cool paint job on. Obviously, I'm probably never gonna do it. I'm terrible at painting. The lines just show the front. A little kind of like stalagmites. He's hiding in a cave. He's got his 4 eyes there. Yeah, otherwise that's pretty cool. Interesting, it's just the crystals on like his mane, and not all over his body. Alright, let's hop into what he gets to do. So we'll look at his stance cards. I think my camera got all messed up here. Alright, first I do want to point out, he has 2 brand new attrition cards. So some of the guys' decks are attrition, so they're just going to get mixed into the deck. And they're going to have their own special abilities. We're going to look at those first. So when these pop up, they're going to work just like any other attrition card. You have to have a defense of that number, but this also has to match the color. So you have to have a green or you have to have 2 yellow. So that makes them a lot harder to dodge. And then it says, when revealed, an additional attrition card, and use the one that gives you the worst outcome. And then for the second, it says, when revealed, each player in the front sector suffers an attack unless they reveal a green from their hand. Oh boy. Yeah, having to reveal 2 yellow, that could be very tricky, especially because it's 1 out of all the different cards, so you have no idea when that's going to appear. I was just going to see if they had any extra thing in the rules on these. Okay, it just says you must have at least 1 card of that color in the sequence. Okay, so for this, it doesn't have to have 2 yellow. It just he has to have 2 defense cards, but at least 1 has to be yellow. So that's not too bad. And that's the special abilities. A card with 1 green could prove to be worse than a basic attrition with 2 regular defense. So I think it might just depend on what it is. So the worst outcome is not going to necessarily be, so if like you draw this one, it says if they have 1 green or if you get another card that says just 2 generic defense, the 2 is obviously generally going to be worse because that means you have to have 2 defense cards. But if neither of them are green, this one might be worse because then it's definitely going to hit him. Like, you could have 3 defense out, but none are green. So this could still be the worst one because you didn't have a green card. Yeah, so these guys could definitely be a little bit tricky. So we'll see if they play more directly into his card abilities or not. We're going to start with Stance 1, which doesn't do anything special in the prologue. You get hit on the flanks. He just has 2 toughness, so nothing terribly special there. In Stance 2, we have, when revealed, trigger all behavior cards in play with the Rampage reaction. Oh, so as soon as it hits, it's just going to trigger all of them, whether you decide to trigger them or not. Zoom back out just a bit so we can get both of these cards on screen. Yeah, so you have to. So that's the thing. If you remember that's what he does, you're gonna have to really be paying attention to when you trigger him. You might have to delay damage for a turn until some of those go away. And then for stage 3, we have, when revealed, trigger all behavior cards in play with the reaction. So the same thing. So you're gonna keep those coming. So see how many of those he has. If he only has like one or two, that's not terrible. But if he has like 5 or 6, that could be bad. Level 1, we have Stance 1. At the start of round 1, trigger all behavior cards with the Rampage in there. So now he's just going to do it right from the beginning of the first round before you do anything. Stance 2 has it triggering that again. So you can just keep triggering these reactions. But luckily it's only when they're first revealed. So it hits him once and then boom. Then Stance 3 says the same thing. Trigger all behavior cards with that reaction. But then he also gains -1 struggle. So at least that's kind of a little nice to help you out. Yeah, you don't take as much damage. In level 2, we have Stance 1. Same thing, trigger all behavior cards with the Rampage icon. Stance 2, trigger all behaviors with the Rampage. Gains 1 struggle for each behavior card triggered this way. Oh crap, so he could potentially unleash if he's nearing that. And then for Stance 3, when revealed, trigger all behavior cards with the Rampage icon. Search the attrition deck for a base attrition card with a value of 0 or 1. Then remove those cards from the game, and then reshuffle the attrition deck. Oh, that's mean. So he's got, normally you have a little over a 50% chance of getting a 0 or a 1 for your attrition, and on this reveal, so he's going to get rid of one of them. Plus, he has his other 2 cards in there. Oh, if he has more cards like that, that'd be crazy. I love it as a difficulty for a boss, but that's mean. For level 3, he has 18 toughness and 3 attack right off the bat. Trigger all reactions, same thing. In Stance 2, same as before, he gains 1 struggle for each behavior trigger this way. He's up to 25 toughness. And then finally with Stance 3, same as before. Oh no, that changes. That says remove all cards of the game and reshuffle the attrition deck. So the only way you get lucky there is because it's searching the attrition deck and not like the discard pile. Because if I'm assuming that as you go through the attrition deck, you don't reshuffle it until everything is done. So that way, like, hopefully you, like, when this flips over again, it might be a very good timing issue, is you just need to wait until your timing runs out. Yeah, if you're instructed to the top card of the attrition deck, but it's empty, reshuffle the discard pile. So kind of like this other one where you can gain struggle or trigger those reactions. If you time it right and there's none in there, this might not hurt you. And the same thing, you flip to the Stance 3. If you time it right, and you have the attrition deck down to like 1 or 2 cards, then it's probably not going to hurt you very much. But if you trigger it when it's full, all of a sudden it removes all of those cards. That's nuts. Did the level 2 do that? Yeah, it did remove all from the game. I thought it removed 1. And I'm like, oh, one's gonna kind of suck, but removing all of them, oh boy. And then notice it does say base, so it's not gonna remove his that he adds in there. Wow, that's pretty crazy. Alright, his peril cards are Ravenous for stance 1. When a player shuffles attrition damage, trigger all behavior cards in play with the reaction. Oh, boys, yeah, so he's gonna hit you with that attrition hard. And he's gonna keep activating these reactions. So I think the whole reaction thing is supposed to be like a rampaging thing. It's supposed to be he's very nimble and on his feet. Most of the other monsters so far have been kind of big, bulky monsters, and he's a wolf. So he's going to be like all nimble and flipping around and doing this. So he's going to be triggering stuff a lot more often. A little bit harder side has when a player suffers attrition damage, trigger all behavior cards with the rampage icon. Feliaxir gains 1 struggle for each behavior card triggered this way. In stance 2, we have Blood Rage. When he suffers a wound, he gains -1 struggle per player. So that's not too bad, right? That actually kind of helps you. But then it goes away at stance 2. Flip it over. Aha, the hard side. He gains 1 struggle per player instead. Yeah, it's always weird that they do that. Alright, then level 3 we have, or stance 3, Deadly Fangs. When you perform an attrition check, reveal 1 additional card and use the one that gives you the worst outcome. When the attrition deck is empty, players in the front sector suffer attack. Oh, because that, especially if he hits that stance 3 wrong and he empties half the deck out, gets rid of all them 0s and 1s, then it's going to keep emptying quicker when you're adding 2 every time. So if you went from like a 10 card deck down to a 5 card deck, and then now it's revealing 2 every time, it's gonna empty every other player's turn. That could be very bad. And then the harder side, reveal 1 additional card, use the worst outcome, and it's empty. The front and flank sectors. Dang. That's hard. You do have the one ability though to can you stop attrition? I don't remember. I want to say one of the keywords help you stop that attrition deck, but I think that might just be behaviors. I think like blind does peril cards, so blind might help to hit some of those to stop them from activating. It's probably the best you can hope for. Confused does boost, and I think stun messes with his. There's other 3 different types. Stun is for a behavior card. Yeah, so I don't know if there's any way to necessarily stop attrition damage just in general. Like a keyword. Alright, so he has Torchlight, which is a permanent, so this will stay out. Setup, assign this card to a player. When the behavior card is revealed, the player with this card may cancel the effect of that behavior card. If they do, Feliaxir turns to their sector. That's kind of neat. So it's like so imagine this is like you're fighting him in a cave, like as opposed to maybe out in the wilderness. And you see you have a torch out, so whoever's in the one sector can kind of like wave the torch to draw his attention, especially when it's all these things that will trigger extra behavior cards. So you can kind of force them to like aim towards him instead. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, so, yeah, lots of attrition damage with him so far, which is going to be very crazy. We're going to see if his behavior card can do anything else like that. The one thing we have noticed so far is that he hasn't said anything about having keyword subtypes on his cards. Almost every monster so far has had that. But he hasn't had anything listed, so that's again, it's nice that they didn't do that for every single deck. Oh, if you reveal this card with this key type, it does something. It makes sense if you limit some of these abilities to certain characters. Like, not every monster got extra special attrition cards. Not every monster uses special tokens. It makes each one of them stand out a bit more. Ooh, we didn't look at the hard side yet. When the behavior card is revealed, the player with this card may cancel the effect If they do, Phoenix turns their sector engage -1 struggle per player. Okay, that's not bad either. Cool. And that stays out the entire game. So you can constantly use that. Alright, let's look at our behavior cards. We're going to start off with whenever he turns. Which that Torchlight card could be fairly often. This could trigger. I love the little artwork on the back of these cards. Devouring Bite. The aggro player suffers attack unless they reveal a green dodge from their hand. Green defense. Then the harder version is each player in the front sector suffers unless they reveal a green card. So here it just hits everybody instead of one specific player. If you are on one of the flanks, or if anyone is in a flank, it will trigger. I think his cards are going to kick off a lot. Fierce Growl. Discard the top card of the attrition deck. If that card is a base attrition card with a value of 0/1, remove it from the game. Oh, so here, this is what I was worried about, right? When we saw that third card get removed all of them, he's going to have other cards that are going to slowly remove the bad attrition decks. And then if he has a boost of 1, which is very, very possible, you're going to repeat this again. Oh boy. He is going to be a pain to fight. I mean, obviously the way you can keep avoiding attrition damage is playing a bunch of defense, but the more defense you play, the less attack cards you get to play. And the harder one is discard the top card of the attrition deck. If it has value of 0/1, remove that card from the game. Okay, so basically the same exact thing, just it hits in more areas. Alright, if you play a red attack card, we will trigger the next behavior, which is Crystal Shards. The active player suffers an attack unless they have a yellow card in their sequence. And boost enhancement, the active player suffers damage +1. Cool. And then the harder side is player becomes threatened and then they suffer unless they have a yellow card. And then the enhancement is active player suffers damage. Instead of +1, now it's ×2. So it's going to give them a lot more damage. It's awesome. Now, obviously, you're going to want to play defense cards in your sequence because of all this attrition damage. So, like, those cards might not be as painful because you're going to want to be playing them. But again, that might mess up some of your combos. Here, this is also going to be bad because it's right, the last card wants you to play them yellows, but then now you're going to trigger these. So specifically, if it's a yellow defense, the harder ones, but just any defense. Cursed Insight. The active player must either play a yellow as the next card in their sequence or suffer damage. Strange Shadows. With a monstrous features, move in the reflection of Feliaxir's crystals. Yeah, so yeah, right here. So if you already played a yellow card, you might have been like, okay, I can play yellow, then I can play a red and pull off this really cool combo. But now it's basically, do I play that red card and do my extra combo and get my extra abilities? Or do I take damage? And can you afford to take that damage? Interesting. And then the harder one is active player must either play a yellow in the next card of sequence or suffer damage. The same exact thing, just triggers more often. Cool. Ooh, now we're going to get some rampaging cards. So most of his stances say when he flips to them, these auto trigger without having to wait for something else to happen. And again, stance changes can happen while you're doing damage. You do like 8 wounds to him and they only needed 2. As soon as that triggers, the toughness triggers off it and it becomes actual wound to them, then they flip to their next stance. So these could trigger in the middle of your turn. So you gotta be very careful with those. We have Enraged. The aggro player reveals the top card of the deck. If it is an attack, they suffer damage. If it is a defense, Feliaxir gains -1 struggle per player. And then the other one is players in the front sector reveal the top card of their deck. Each player resolves the following if it's revealed. As an attack, they suffer damage, otherwise it gets. So again, it just hits everybody instead of just the one player. if you play a blue maneuver card to remove a struggle, we are going to get Mirror Image. The active player reveals the top card of their deck. That player suffers attack unless it is a blue card. Some of these are really hard to avoid. Like, there are cards that let you stack your deck, but it's not every card, or not super common. And sometimes it's like a combo ability. Suffers attack +1. Oh goody, more rampaging cards. I figure he's gonna have more than probably most other guys based on his abilities. Faithful Assault. The player in the front sector reveal the top card of their deck. The players reveal the same color as other players suffer an attack. If there's only one player in the front sector and that player reveals an attack, they suffer damage. Interesting. So yeah, everyone reveals the same color. Interesting. And then the harder version is looks like the same thing. All players. The other one's just in the front sector, then it jumps to all players. Okay, oh, that's painful. Another reaction rampage card. This one is Iridescent Wrath. The players in the front and flank sectors reveal the top card of their deck. Feliaxir gains 1 struggle for each different color revealed this way. Just kind of playing on like the prism effect of the crystals is kind of what he does, where he gets to hit everybody, or plays the colors a lot, which is really fun. All players reveal the top card of their deck. Feliaxir gains 1 struggle for each different color revealed this way. So like lots of times it's like just being in his front sector is probably the worst, because he's gonna bite you. Being in his flanks, you know, a couple of cards hit there. His rear doesn't really have too much stuff going for it, except then he has these cards that are essentially like hit all players, right? So it's like his crystals are again like reflecting off, and he's gonna do damage or whatever to everybody. So Claw of Fate. This is our last behavior card. The active player reveals the top card of the deck. During the action phase this turn, the active player must either play a card of that color as the first card or suffer an attack. Between one glittering flash of its crystals and the next, Feliaxir moves with lightning speed as if it can predict the movement of any of its prey. So yeah, it's kind of neat. It's using the crystals as like refraction or like blind you so it can get around and do more damage. And here the harder one is active player discards a random card from their hand. Oh, instead of revealing the top card of the deck, they can discard a random card. And then you must play a card of the same color, suffer damage +1. That's nuts. I did want to look at this really quick though. So most of the time his damage sectors are the red ones, are his flanks. So although he doesn't typically, it's actually all of them. They're always in his flanks. So he constantly wants you to like be in his front sector. He's going to turn towards you. You can't damage them. You still then have to move to the side and hit him on the side. His safe spot almost generally is going to be, especially in the easier ones, is generally going to be in his tail side, but you can't be damaged there. So that's kind of interesting too, the way he works. He's gonna play with this attrition deck a ton and play with the color of your cards, which is a really neat extra concepts. Awesome. So let's take a look at our next monster. We have Morkaas, the Godzilla one. What's it got? Just crystals all on the entire back. Scales. I even love the extra scale pattern on the legs. That's really neat. Plus I had some crystal spikes on his tail. Yeah, look at that, like patterns on his chest and everything. That is really neat. Yeah, kind of like with some of the fire guys, this is how they do the fire effects. I'd love to see how some people paint these crystals. If you could paint them somehow like translucenty, that would be kind of neat, or like shimmery. That would be awesome. And I'm sure there's definitely people that will do it. Alright, what's our big bad dragon-esque monster do? He has stance 1 for prologue. 5 toughness, and 1 damage. At the start of the round, Morkaas gains -1 struggle per player. In stance 2, when revealed, he gains -1 struggle per player. I'm going to zoom back out just a bit here. Get both of those back into frame. And then for stance 3, he has, when revealed, each player suffers an attack unless they discard a blue card from their hand. Alright. And one that's also interesting here is to note for this guy. So his toughness is 5. So right off the bat, he's going to be hard to take out. But then he goes down to 3, then he goes down to 2. So it's kind of like he has this big, giant, like, crystal, like, exterior that's protecting him. And as you're going through his stances, you're almost breaking down his defenses. He's going to be easier to do more and more damage to. So that's, again, it's a neat little effect that he's going to have. So in stance 1 here, or level 1, he starts as 10s. It's going to be really hard to take him out early on. But he gains -1 struggle at the start of the game. In stance 2, he goes down to 8 toughness. Gains -1 struggle. And then when we hop up to stance 3, when revealed, each player suffers an attack unless they discard a blue. Now he's down to 6. But his attack also goes up as he gets more hurt. So he does still do more damage. But that's a fun, interesting way to play him. In level 2, we have 20 toughness. The -1 struggle. Down to 16 toughness with the -1 struggle. Now he's up to 3 damage. And then level 3, or stance 3, he has same ability. So not too bad. Like, overall, his monster stance effects aren't too bad. In level 3, we have 30 to start with, which most of them end with 30. So again, he kind of goes down the other way. Again with the -1 struggle. And then the third one is a good. So same thing on each one. He just starts off really hard to fight. And he gets a little bit easier as you go along. But that's just his stance cards. That doesn't mean that the peril in his deck aren't going to make that harder to do anyhow. Sorry, his first peril is Celestial Wrath. Permanent. When Morkaas suffers a wound, it gains -1 struggle. Alright, so he has a lot of stuff reducing his struggle. So I'm wondering if he's going to have some sort of ability or effect that works when he has no struggle. Because it seems like he constantly wants to remove them. And then when he's getting rid of them blue cards, is interesting too. And then when he would suffer a wound, he gains -1 struggle for the harder side. For stance 2, he has Devastating Force. Parry cards do not count for the attrition check. Ooh. So when he gets to level 2, stance 2, he's going to shut down your yellow cards. That's interesting. Oh, and then the harder side, it becomes a permanent. Oh, that's mean. And then stance 3, he has Crystal Quake. It's immune to blind, which means you can't play something to cover this up. Unleash, all players are KO'd. Okay, so just to make sure we understand this right, he hits stance 3. He's had stance 1, stance 2, removing his struggle counters. And then he has his stance 3, which makes him everyone have to discard a blue card, which is, again, it's going to also make it so it's, all attack can discard 1, so less cards able to reduce it. But when he hits stance 3, basically he's at his weakest. If he gets the chance to unleash, everyone loses. And you can't shut this off. Now this, I'm going to drop this over here quick. Because so this one's permanent, not stance 2. Stance 1's permanent. So every time he suffers a wound, he loses stuff. So if you can keep wounding him, you can at least keep him out of that thing. But you're going to have to be playing, either doing a bunch of wounds to either defeat him quick, or to make him lose struggle, or you're going to have to turn around and keep playing blue cards to keep that down. Because if he unleashes, you automatically lose the game. Because once all players are knocked out, if they're all knocked out at the same time, the game is over. There's no way to avoid that. The only way you could possibly get around this there was one equipment card, I believe, that says once you're knocked out, you can immediately rise. I think it was like one of the metal helms or the metal light armors. I don't remember which one it was. That would be the only possible way to get around this, was have that card. Everyone gets knocked out. That guy auto rises back up, so you just stay alive that turn. But the thing is, at that point, can that person survive long enough to resurrect everybody else while keeping Morkaas from unleashing a second time? And then even if you look at that, then when stance 2 becomes it, your parry cards don't do any attrition either, so you might take extra attrition damage. Oh boy. What's the hard side? Oh, yay, even better. So now he gains Infuriate 2, 6, and 9. So Infuriate means... Sorry, yeah, Infuriate... This Infuriate ability is infuriating me. So Infuriate means that during the upkeep step when you're adding your struggle, 1 per player, they also check everybody's hand for aggro symbols on their cards. If the collective of all players has at least 2, he gains 1 extra struggle. If they have 6, he gains 2. If they have 9, he gains 3. So when he hits level 3 now on the hard difficulty, he's going to potentially gain, I'd say bare minimum, probably 1 extra struggle every turn. But he could gain up to 3. Oh, that's nasty. Alright, what can we do to fight him? We have Climb the Mountain, his objective card, which is a permanent. At the start of the round, players in the rear sector may pay 1 stamina. If they do, place their miniature onto the monster board as if they were on the plateau terrain. Interesting. So they can climb up on top of him as if they're on a plateau. Then they can potentially do a riding check. What's the harder side say? At the start of the round, players in the rear sector may discard an attack from their hand. If they do, place their miniature on the monster board as if they're on the plateau. So, okay, it goes from having to play a stamina versus having to discard a card. What does the plateau do again? We just want to reread this as a reminder. At the end of your turn, if you're in a sector on a plateau, you may decide to move onto the plateau. If you do, place your hunter on there. Okay, so we were on the plateau, so basically if you're on the monster Havoc, whenever a behavior card is revealed, you may immediately place your hunter on that behavior card. If you do the following steps: cancel the effect of that behavior card, skip the reaction step, which is very helpful, perform a riding check. Note, if you start your turn on a plateau, you must immediately step off of it. Cool, so basically at the start of the round, you can opt to hop up on top of it. Then when a reaction is revealed, you can then hop down and jump onto the reaction, canceling it. A behavior card, so that's pretty cool. Then you do a riding check. Which is kind of fun as well. A little bit risky to do. Trying to get exactly to that page. So a riding check. Reveal the top card of the attrition deck and the top card of your action deck. Compare the attrition value to the revealed attrition card. Do the number of stamina icons on the revealed action card. If the stamina is equal to or higher than the attrition, deal your weapon damage to the monster. Choose a sector to place your miniature in. If it is lower, suffer the attack and place your miniature in the front sector. So that's cool. So you have the option of getting behind him, hopping up on top of him by spending either, depending on the difficulty, a stamina or an attack card. Then when a behavior acts, you can go and jump off, cancel that, and then you can potentially do damage to the monster. But again, that's always a slight risk because you might end up drawing a bad card and doing damage to yourself. But more often, again, over half the attrition deck is 0s or 1s, and every single card you have in your deck is going to have at least a 1. So you have a fairly good chance of, at least over a 50% chance of not having to worry about that. So yeah, what are going to be his behavior cards that we have to worry about. So what's he doing so far? He is just trying to eventually build up enough struggle to unleash. He's going to start off really hard to fight. And this is right at the beginning of the game, so that's kind of helpful as well. You can maybe potentially get an extra attack out of him. Especially when he starts off with so much health, or toughness rather. That card doesn't go in there. Alright, so he is going to... let's see what his behavior cards are. Sorry. We have triggers off over a rampage. So this is definitely one you want to stop. Terrifying Roar. Morkaas gains -1 struggle per player. The stars in the sky emit a dark purple glow, and Morkaas' roar. The light reflects off the monster's crystals and enrages its enraged eyes. Morkaas gains 1 struggle per player. Yeah, just to make sure I want to clarify, so I think maybe I've been saying it kind of wrong, but the first symbol there on this side is he gains struggle per player -1. So if there's 3 players, he would gain 2 struggle, right? So he's still gaining struggle. It's not he's losing struggle. He's still gaining struggle, he's just gaining less. Versus the other one is times the number of players. So if there's 4 players, he's gaining 4. Yeah, it's a little less brutal, but he's still gaining. So he wants to definitely build up his struggle. If we play red cards, we are going to trigger Brutal Strike. He gains 1 struggle per player. The active player suffers an attack unless they have a defense in their sequence. And here, same thing, except it has to specifically be a green defense, a dodge. If you are in his front sector, which is probably where he wants you, so he can bite you, you're going to get the March of Devastation. Each player in the front sector must immediately move or suffer an attack. Morkaas then turns to the aggro player. And you move, you have to pay for it. And then we have... Each player in the front sector must immediately move or suffer an attack. Then Morkaas turns to the aggro player. If a player chooses to move, they must generate stamina by discarding a blue card. Oh, which is going to make it harder to get rid of that struggle. Alright, this is, and the easy one, if you are in the tail sector, or the harder if anyone is in the tail sector. Of course he's got a big giant spike tail. Of course he's going to hit you. Sweeping Tail. Each player in the rear and flank sector suffer attack unless they reveal a green card from their hand. Morkaas, with his slow and unrelenting moving, crashes its tail into the ground, causing a devastating earthquake that shakes the entire battlefield. Ooh boy. And the harder side, looks like the same ability. It's just harder because it hits everywhere. It hits if anyone's in that sector. In the front sector, again, we're going to have Dreadful Fate. The active player reveals the top card of the deck. That player becomes dazed unless that card is a blue card. And then the harder one is each player reveals the top card of their deck and becomes dazed unless they reveal a blue card. So it hits everybody. What does dazed do again? As a reminder, when you become dazed, take a corresponding dazed token, place it on your hunter. The next time you play a blue card in your sequence, discard your dazed token and consider that card to be blank. Blue cards still remove 1 struggle as usual, but its ability is ignored. It's just basically like it's just blue are your maneuvers, right? So it's like you maneuvering or positioning yourself or planning, and then, yeah, if you're dazed, you're not gonna be able to plan very well. Yeah, so that's pretty crazy, because they'll probably hit more often than not. If you play a yellow card, a parry, you are going to have to fight inescapable. What could have imprisoned it for so long under the Crystal Mountain? Morkaas gets +1 attack and is unstoppable until the end of the round. And then the harder one is he gains +1 and is unstoppable in the round with no boost. And unstoppable is a pain to fight. It just means each time the behavior card triggers, the monster gains 1 struggle. So yeah, he wants to gain struggle anyhow. This is just going to help him do it. Oh boy. Alright, then if we play a yellow or a defense in the harder mode. Faith of Destruction. All players reveal the top card of Morkaas's other deck. Morkaas gains 1 struggle for each attack revealed this way. So kind of like Feliaxir, where he cares about colors. This guy cares about colors as well. I kind of like it. And you can see that, reflection of some of these monsters with their weapons. I believe all the crystal weapons gain bonuses if you play multiple of the same colored cards. So they care about colors. Just kind of cool. All players reveal the top card of their deck, gains 1 struggle for each card. Just same thing, but activates more often. End of the attrition phase. Oh, I hate these ones because they're unavoidable. There's no way to just ever stop these. Earthshaker. The aggro player suffers attack ×2 unless they reveal a green from their hand. They do reveal a green. Remove per player half the struggle rounded down. Yeah, she really need to reveal a green, otherwise this is gonna hurt. Twice damage, and you really need to do it to remove that struggle. Oh boy. And then this one is the same thing. Reveal versus discard. So the easier one, you just have to reveal it. The harder one, you have to discard it, which does make it harder. And then the last ones are End of the Turn, which also suck because you can't avoid these. Massive Stomp. Each player in the front sector suffers damage ×2 unless they discard a green card from their hand. If all targeted players discard a green card, remove half the struggle. Oh, so yeah, definitely you almost want to be like, it's not even whether you can afford to, you almost have to discard it just because you need to be able to do that. And then the harder one is the same thing. Each player, it's instead of the front sector, because each player discards it. Oh boy, so now it hits everybody. That is crazy. So we also notice we only have 1 card on the easy side that has a boost, and it's only a 1, so it's not even much. And then on the harder side, there are no boost cards. So he's going to keep amassing that struggle, until he unleashes. That's his whole thing. He doesn't have boost cards to be wasting spending on it. So he is going to be a pain to fight. But that is Morkaas. Yeah, I love the idea of this. So you have one guy that's trying to build up struggle to eventually do stuff. With Morkaas and Feliaxir is playing around with that attrition deck. So they're hitting different aspects of their mechanics in there. Plus the fact is he starts off really tough, and then he gets weaker as you go along. So at the beginning of the game is going to be kind of a struggle for you. But luckily, by the time you get him to the end, when you have to really worry about that struggle building up to attack him, he has less toughness. So hopefully then you can hit the extra damage hard enough to finish him. You just gotta hope he doesn't destroy you before that. Alright, so that's what we have for our 2 crystal monsters. Hope you guys are enjoying the video. Check out the other monsters. If you haven't, check out the hunters. Come back for more monster goodness. See you guys then. Bye.